The late 1980s in China were a time of rapid transformation. Amidst the shifting political landscape, the country's elite moved in corridors of power where influence and ambition dictated every interaction. In this world, Gu Kailai emerged, not as a footnote, but as a force to be reckoned with. Born into a well-educated family, she demonstrated early on a sharp intellect and a remarkable ability to navigate complex social networks. Her education in law and her early career in legal circles gave her not only knowledge but also a quiet authority, a sense that she could shape outcomes where others hesitated. Even in her youth, there were hints that Gu Kailai's charm masked a calculating mind. Colleagues admired her poise, her eloquence, and her graceful presence at social gatherings. But behind the smiles and polite conversation lurked a relentless drive for influence. She observed the ambitions of others with precision, gauging their strengths and weaknesses, and carefully positioning herself to benefit from every opportunity. It was a subtle dance, one that few noticed at first, but one that would later define the trajectory of her life. Her rise in social and legal circles was not accidental. Every case she took, every connection she forged, expanded her sphere of influence. She moved in circles where the personal and the political blurred, understanding early that loyalty, perception, and timing could be more powerful than raw talent. Colleagues often left meetings with a sense that Gu Kailai had already anticipated their moves, that she had already thought 3 steps ahead. There was an unsettling efficiency in the way she operated, a quiet ruthlessness that only became apparent to those who crossed her path. It was during this period of calculated ambition that she encountered Bo Xilai, a rising star in China's political hierarchy. Their meeting was unremarkable on the surface, a social introduction at a political event, but it would prove pivotal. For Gu Kailai, Bo represented both opportunity and a partner who could match, or even amplify, her own ambitions. Their connection was immediate yet enigmatic, a blend of strategic alignment and unspoken tension. This alliance would soon draw her deeper into the vortex of political power, setting the stage for events that would shock China and alter the course of her life forever. The wedding of Gu Kailai and Bo Xilai was celebrated as the union of 2 ambitious minds, a pairing that seemed destined to dominate China's political landscape. Outwardly, they were the perfect power couple, elegant, charismatic, and admired by peers and the public alike. At formal events, their smiles and carefully rehearsed gestures projected unity and confidence. Socialites whispered about their influence, and the media framed them as an unstoppable force, a duo that could shape both politics and society with ease. Yet beneath the glittering surface, subtle tension simmered, invisible to most but palpable to those closest to them. Gu Kailai's nature, once discreetly noted in professional circles, became more pronounced in their domestic and political life. She was fiercely controlling, precise, and exacting, expecting those around her to align with her vision, or risk subtle but unmistakable consequences. Bo, for all his ambition, began to feel the weight of her influence, the strategic guidance that sometimes crossed the line into manipulation. Their home was a microcosm of power, where decisions were measured, alliances carefully calculated, and loyalty tested. The couple's charisma masked the underlying intensity of their relationship, a tension that could erupt in unpredictable ways. Behind the scenes, Gu Kailai quietly but decisively shaped Bo Xilai's political career. She advised him on appointments, steered him through complex party dynamics, and helped construct an image of unassailable authority. Their wealth and social standing were not merely symbols of success but tools in a broader strategy, an elite lifestyle designed to command respect and assert dominance. Friends and colleagues often felt the unspoken pressure. Any misstep could jeopardize not just personal advancement but the intricate network of influence they were building together. Yet even as their power grew, so did the whispers of threats, rivals, disgruntled colleagues, and potential scandals that could undermine everything they had built. The tension was quiet but persistent, like storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Gu Kailai, with her keen instincts and calculating mind, sensed these dangers early, preparing contingency plans that would later prove chillingly effective. The facade of the glamorous power couple was intact, but the undercurrent of ambition, suspicion, and latent ruthlessness was already setting the stage for events that would shock the nation. Neil Heywood was a businessman who moved comfortably between East and West, a facilitator in a world where money, influence, and secrets collided. His relationship with Gu Kailai and Bo Xilai began as mutually beneficial. He offered connections and advice, they offered trust and opportunity. But as with so many alliances in the corridors of power, the line between convenience and danger was thin. Heywood's knowledge of the family's financial dealings would later prove critical, a threat that would cast a long shadow over Gu Kailai's carefully constructed life. The tension started subtly. Meetings that had once been routine became fraught with unease. A casual remark here, a slight hesitation there, and the aura of trust began to erode. Colleagues noticed changes in Gu Kailai's demeanor, a cold sharpness, a meticulous focus on every detail of interactions with Heywood. He, for his part, sensed the shifting dynamics too late, underestimating the intensity of the storm gathering around him. One evening, the threads of ambition, fear, and resentment converged in a moment that would shock the nation. It began with a confrontation over money and loyalty. Heywood had pressed on sensitive matters, demanding settlements that Gu Kailai considered betrayals, questioning the security of their secrets. The argument, carried out behind closed doors, escalated rapidly. In a decision that would mark her forever, Gu Kailai allegedly acted with decisive ruthlessness. The method was calculated, precise, every action designed to eliminate the threat while minimizing exposure. The act itself, sudden and shocking, left no immediate witnesses, but it set off a chain of events that could not be contained. The cover-up was as methodical as the crime. Messages were intercepted, stories rehearsed, and timelines manipulated. Those closest to the family were either complicit or kept deliberately in the dark. For a time, it seemed as though the perfect crime had been executed. Neil Heywood's sudden death was attributed to natural causes, and the world outside remained unaware of the darkness that had just been unleashed. But secrets in the political elite rarely stay buried. Rumors began to spread, subtle discrepancies noticed by officials and associates alike. Whispers of foul play drifted through social and political circles, carrying an uneasy tension that hinted at exposure. By the end of this chapter, the audience is left with the chilling realization, the walls of power are thin, and even the most calculated actions cannot remain hidden forever. Authorities were beginning to suspect, and the shadow of investigation loomed, promising revelations that would shake China to its core. The first cracks appeared quietly, almost imperceptibly. Chinese authorities, accustomed to maintaining the image of seamless control, began to sense that something was off. Bo Xilai's meteoric rise was under subtle threat, not from external rivals, but from shadows within his inner circle. Questions about Neil Heywood's sudden death circulated behind closed doors, unanswered and uncomfortable. The investigation began in whispers, carefully concealed from the public, but the tension within the family and political network was immediate. Gu Kailai moved swiftly, meticulously orchestrating a cover-up. Documents were shuffled, statements rehearsed, and timelines manipulated to maintain a facade of normalcy. She leveraged every ounce of her intelligence and strategic skill to divert attention, crafting a narrative that kept suspicion at bay, for now. Bo Xilai, meanwhile, struggled to reconcile his political ambitions with the growing unease at home. Public appearances required charm and composure, but behind the scenes, panic and indecision threatened to unravel the carefully constructed image of their power. As the investigation intensified, cracks in loyalty began to appear. Associates, once unquestioning, hesitated, sensing danger in continuing their complicity. Interrogations revealed conflicting testimonies, subtle betrayals, and hints of ulterior motives. Each revelation added tension, both in the political corridors and in the Xilai household, as the stakes grew higher and the world outside remained dangerously close to discovering the truth. The sense of control Gu Kailai once wielded so effortlessly began to slip, replaced by the urgent need to manage both perception and reality. The turning point came when the murder could no longer be hidden. The public revelation of Heywood's death sent shockwaves through China's elite. Media scrutiny, political inquiries, and the moral outrage of the nation exposed the scale of the scandal. What had begun as a private crime became a symbol of corruption, power, and the dark underbelly of influence. The once feared power couple was now on the defensive, their carefully constructed empire trembling. By the end of this chapter, the audience is left on edge. Gu Kailai faces the looming shadow of justice, Bo Xilai's ambitions crumble, and the tightly knit world of China's political elite begins to unravel. The next chapter promises a courtroom drama where every secret, every betrayal, and every calculated act will finally come to light. The courtroom was packed, cameras flashing and reporters murmuring, as Gu Kailai faced the trial that would forever mark her name in Chinese history. Public outrage was palpable, the nation watched with a mix of fascination and disbelief. Every detail of the proceedings, every testimony, every document, was dissected, analyzed, and broadcast, transforming what was once a private scandal into a public spectacle. The tension in the room was almost unbearable, as lawyers presented evidence that painted a chilling portrait of ambition, calculation, and ruthlessness. Shocking revelations emerged during the trial. Letters and secret communications revealed motives rooted in money, power, and the fear of exposure. Witnesses recounted conversations and interactions that painted a damning picture of Gu Kailai's involvement in Neil Heywood's death. Each confession and testimony escalated the suspense, keeping the audience on edge, anticipating the final verdict. Even those accustomed to political intrigue found themselves caught in the drama of the courtroom, wondering how far ambition could drive a person. Ultimately, Gu Kailai was convicted of murder, sentenced to life imprisonment, and stripped of her public influence. Bo Xilai, once a rising political star, saw his ambitions crumble under the weight of scandal and investigation. Their empire, built on calculated alliances and strategic power plays, collapsed almost overnight. The human cost was immense, families fractured, reputations destroyed, and a nation forced to confront the dark intersections of power, wealth, and secrecy. Even after the verdict, the story did not end. Details of Gu Kailai's life in prison surfaced, rumors of isolation, reflection, and continued scheming, reminding the world that power, once tasted, leaves a lingering shadow. The scandal left a lasting mark on Chinese politics, reshaping public perceptions of authority and corruption. As the courtroom emptied and the nation processed the fallout, one truth lingered: ambition unchecked, even behind the most polished facade, can spiral into consequences both shocking and irreversible. The audience is left with an uneasy question: what other secrets lie hidden in the corridors of power, waiting for their moment to surface?